Okay. Who came last time? Who was here last? Great, some people came back. That's fantastic. At the last meeting, we had a presentation on creativity, and we talked about game storming, which is a set of techniques which can help you run better meetings, generate ideas, communicate ideas, and develop them, and do research. And as part of that, we gave everyone there a chance to actually take part in one of those game storming activities as a way of learning how to do it. But there was also a not-so-secret agenda, which was that as Hot Sauce has been around for 3 years, it was a good opportunity to actually do some research with hot saucers and find out what things people valued about hot sauce, and also how they might see hot sauce developing in the future in a way that would really interest and give value to them. So what we did was an activity called Prune the Future, or Shape the Future, which takes the metaphor of a tree, and during the course of around 20-30 minutes, people populated the tree with leaves, put leaves onto the skeleton of the tree, and at the base of the tree was the place where people put leaves which talked about hot sauce now, so their experience of hot sauce and the things that they value in hot sauce now. Further out was how they saw hot sauce maybe developing in the near-term future, so maybe small changes there. And then right at the top there, things that are a bit more out on the limb, so kind of long-term future for hot sauce and how things might develop if you kind of played things forward quite a bit. So brilliant for everyone who took part. I think it was something that people really got into, and we got a lot of information, a lot of data and a lot of ideas on the leaves. So took them away and sifted through them. So some of the things that seemed to come out of there, and it'd be interesting to hear from you afterwards whether these things kind of resonate with you, whether you were there or not. So people were saying, yeah, one of the things that came out was people recognise that hot sauce is kind of a very accepting environment. You know, whoever you are, you're welcome here, and it's a good way to meet people without feeling pressurised. So it's not kind of like, you know, speed networking or anywhere where there's kind of real pressure to get to know people, but you can do it almost by osmosis. So the other thing was that, you know, people valued the things that they learned in hot sauce, unsurprisingly, but also that people were interested not just in hearing about things, but also learning how to do things. So actually seeing it as maybe an opportunity to gather skills, to actually gain new skills rather than just learn about new stuff. And particularly as we kind of moved out up the tree, thinking into the longer term, or the medium term rather, there were a lot of suggestions there about how hot sauce might develop in terms of the content and the things that hot sauce do. So yeah, not just content in the sense of the subjects that are covered or the industries that are featured, but also in the types of meetings that people might have. And some of those ideas drew on the ideas of getting to know people, and also getting to know how to do stuff. And then as we went further out, there were some really interesting ideas there about, again, about larger meetings, more involved meetings, all-day conferences, taking what's being done now and really kind of expanding it in different directions. But also interesting ideas about what you might call meta-networking, which is kind of taking our network and connecting it with other networks which exist out there, both in Norwich, locally, regionally, and also nationally, and perhaps even internationally. So there's some really interesting ideas there, and I'll hand over to Nania to just sort of talk a bit about how hot sauce has started to think and respond to those, and maybe about how you can be thinking about how you can play a part in making some of those things happen as well.
Thanks, Rod. Hello. We really felt like everyone had participated so willingly in that exercise, which is obviously sometimes difficult, that we wanted to let you know that we'd listened to what you said and let you know what we plan to do with that information. So I saw it in kind of three chunks. That the first chunk was where we're at now, and as Tom mentioned to start with, we started Hot Sauce to create a sense of community here in Norwich amongst people who are working in creative and digital businesses, partly because we couldn't believe there wasn't one already, and we wanted to go to one, and we wanted it to be an environment where you could share ideas and sort of break down barriers rather than be in a room with what you consider to be your competitors. So we wanted it to be informal and interesting and social, and something that we would go to ourselves. We also wanted to try to create a community that was strong enough to raise awareness outside that community of it. So something that kind of looked inwards for its content and inspiration and speakers, but that was outward facing, so that people who are perhaps outside the industry would come. And the great thing about this Pruning the Future exercise was it sort of confirmed that indeed had happened or was happening. This is the final slide that I have to say thanks to Liam Bury, who came and sat in our studio and took all the pieces together and took them apart and put them together again. We'll put this on the site. So we feel like, we like coming to this. We're interested in hearing what people have to say. It's still free, it's relaxed, people learn stuff. So where we're at now is all good. And then we looked at this third place. So here we are now. So the third level was looking at the longer term future. And it was, as Rod said, really interesting to see how the audience felt that it might develop. And there were loads of good ideas. And pretty much the answer to all of those suggestions from all three of us was, yeah, why not? However, it's probably a good moment to go back to what Tom said in that, and think about hot sauce as an entity, in that it isn't an entity. We don't have any funding. We don't have any cash. When we give you cheap booze, it's because Tom and Jake and I have paid for it. So that very much limits what we're able to do at the moment. But it means it's free and we're independent. We can do what we want. So everyone who contributes to hot sauce does it gratis, including Lambda and the forum, who gift us their space and everything. So that's where we're at now. But that's not to say that we might not choose later on to look for funding or do something. But that kind of feels quite far away for us at the moment. But some of our sort of favourite... Oh, beer. Beer was just everywhere. Beer, the pub, etc. This is just a small selection of the beer-orientated leaves. Yeah, so this is Hot Sauce 2.0. Somebody, people said, increase the influence, have a conference, think, we thought it was pretty cool when someone said, Cambridge, and then we found another one saying, think outside Europe. So, there's places for us to go. Oh, making actually chili sauce as well, someone suggested, which we quite liked. So, I guess if I said to you, would you go to a hot sauce conference? Hands up for going to a hot sauce conference. Yeah. So, if we could do it, we would do, and maybe in a year's time, we will. However, now, right, the near future, level 2, so this is the sort of medium, this is the medium place, is some of the great suggestions that we had that we can do now, based on how we run hot sauce now, and to, enrich it, were, this is one of the things that we can do straight away. That's been approved. Things like lots of people suggested doing Pecha Kucha, which we'd love to do. We would like to invite people from other industries to come and talk. We did a field trip last year. It was really popular. So if somebody's got a business that they could. We could visit and show us around, and so getting to know what other people are doing. Also, to be more interactive. Everyone said it's nice to go to a different space where you can move around and do things in teams and actually get to. We're getting to know each other a bit, but it's nice to actually sit down and learn what someone else does, doing it in different places, etc. So those are all things that we plan to do, now. We've implemented some of your suggestions already. We try to introduce ourselves better tonight. It's always a bit of a fumble when hot sauce starts. So we tried tonight to be a bit more professional. And we will, follow up with you and say thanks for coming and, try to just be a bit more kind of together about all that stuff. If you find that you really hate that, please tell us and we'll go back to being really crap. So that's sort of, that's what we decided, that everything was good for now and everyone enjoyed it, that in the future there could be, a real departure. But in the meantime, as long as everyone can, contribute, then we can keep doing it and do some different and better things. Which brings us on to our next event. We're skipping October's drinks because it's Halloween and half term and what have you, and the drinks have been quite poorly attended. And we decided that we might do something else on that month in between the talkies, which might be Pecha Kucha in a pub or something like that. So if anyone's got any suggestions or ideas of something they'd like to do, let us know. And another thing that people mentioned was having a themed event. So we're going to have our annual bigger thing in November this year, and the theme is going to be accessibility. And particularly we want to look at how SMEs, like the companies that a lot of us work for, are working with accessibility, and looking at the fact that we can't just leave it to the big boys to provide an experience to users who are differently abled. And so we've got somebody from the Government Digital Service coming to talk about accessibility, which will be really interesting. And we're just adding to that kind of roster at the moment. So that's going to be November. Another suggestion was made, Redwell Brewery. I don't know who made that suggestion, but anyway, Redwell Brewery have duly been approached. So you might get some decent beer in November. We'll also be having a tasting of Beaujolais Nouveau from Claire, who's a digital and creative wine retailer. So who has drunk Beaujolais Nouveau of late? Hands up. Claire and me, because I'm a convert. But who doesn't know what Beaujolais Nouveau is? Yeah, good. Well, come in November and you can try it. Yeah, that's what we've done. That's the thumbs up. This is a really nice one, which was more learning from our own resources, i.e. each other. So, just to kind of emphasise that point again, that, usually it's lovely when we have speakers from our own community. In November, we'll be having some outside speakers, but everyone here has a 15-minute talk inside them, and I know that because I've done one. And so don't be afraid to do it, suggest somebody, or come and have a go. I'm not running away because I'm suggesting. Yes, come up. So thank you very much again, as always, and thank you for coming. And we're going to the pub now, to the Garnet Wolsey. So thanks for coming. Come again, tell your friends, and if there's enough of you, we'll have a conference eventually.